Welcome back to Ocarina of Time 3D. In today's installment we'll be heading to the Gerudo Desert. It's dry, it's humid, it's generally a terrible place to live. Basically the king hates the Gerudos and he's a massive racist.
Wow. Let's just put this bluntly. You know that there's political unrest in the Hyrule, so let's just blame the figurehead.
Well, let's just look at this for a second. Darunia is sworn brothers with the king. The king and the Zora pretty much got put in charge of all the war in Hyrule. What happens to Ganondorf when he goes and begs for assistance from the Hylian king? He gets turned into like a Jafar figure. You know, he's simply the advisor.
Wow, he's the vizier. Make me tea, Ganondorf.
Makes you wonder if Ganondorf had a pet parrot that was cut from production.
I think he did. It came back in Wind Waker as the Helmrock King.
Now I'm thinking of the Helmrock King with Gilbert Gottfried's voice.
Oh my god. Now it makes me feel less bad for whacking him across the face with a skull hammer.
Hey, let's not assault Gilbert Gottfried. He's not done anything wrong. Anyway, you had a thing to say about travelling across the field, mate?
This is actually the last mandatory trip across the field in the game. After this point, you can actually complete the game getting around using the warp songs.
Ah, okay, yeah. It was actually taken to a much worse extent in Twilight Princess. Like, there was literally no reason at all to not use Minda's warping abilities, unless you wanted to, you know, partake in a little bit of horse-top combat, which, while satisfying, is quite meaningless, seeing as there's only, like, what, 1 or 2 jousting sections?
Yeah, maybe we should just complete the game by riding around on Midna. So this scene was specifically requested by Miyamoto because he wanted to reference back to cowboy western movies. Though if you ask me, if you want to play a good cowboy western video game, just play the Wild Arms series. They actually have dungeon exploration that's a lot like Zelda, but it also has combat that's from a turn-based JRPG. Frankly, the only fault of the Wild Arm games is that they were released the same year as Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
No game can recover from that kind of blow.
That's like Rayman Legends releasing around the same time as GTA 5.
Ubisoft, what are you thinking?
Indeed. Now, the point of us visiting this place, the Gerudo Fortress, is we've got to rescue 4 carpenters who, upon hearing that there was a race of, you know, warrior princesses out in the desert, went to go and find girlfriends, only to be beaten across the face and locked up, you know, as is the way of things in this world.
Guys, you gotta charm the lady. Don't just go running into their fortress, waving around saying, "Be my girlfriend." Real life doesn't work that way.
Oh, I got prison zoned.
Damn.
Now, just before we go and actually rescue the carpenters, there is a little something I want to show off, so shortcut go now.
The Gerudo's name actually is a reference to a bunch of enemies from previous Zelda games, all of which are related to the desert. Mm-hmm. In The Adventure of Link, there's a worm that pops out of sand called a Geldarm, and in A Link to the Past, there's these guys made out of sand called Geldmen.
Ah, yeah.
Both of them start with the syllable Geld. Now, in Japanese, Geld is written and read as Gerudo. Change L to R because English is awesome, and you have the word Gerudo.
Oh, language is so wonderful.
Also, Geld in German means money, which could reference the fact that they're thieves.
Of course, and there you go. There's your cross-promotional reference.
Cause Ocarina of Time came out right before Skyward Swords, and Nintendo would totally love it if you bought Skyward Swords!
You always call it Skyward Swords. There's only one sword in that game, mate.
There's another sword guy thing at the end, and he's fabulous!
It's not like Kingdom Hearts 2 and Axel's all like, 2!
Makes me wonder why they're not called Kingdom Hearts'
Kingdom Hearts I.
If you follow that path, you can snag a purple rupee, which is worth 50. And it's also a way that you can snag the chest that has a 37th heart piece. Now, if you add up all the heart pieces, 37 is actually one more than what's needed to get the maximum amount of hearts. It's an extra heart piece for no good reason.
Yeah, that's pretty uneven right there. Oh, lordy. Okay, I think the best thing to do in this situation is whip out their Master Sword and go to town on this crazy guard person.
However, you could just be like Entom and use arrows against their weak blades.
Well, if you take too much damage here, or they unleash that little whirling attack, you'll be thrown in jail, and I ain't got time for any of that shit.
I usually just use a jump slash because it seems to extend past their blocking box and actually hits their hitbox, so that's always a neat trick.
So I'm cheap for using arrows, but you're not for actually going through hitboxes.
I'm using my sword. That's the difference. I'm using the Sword of Evil's bait. You're using a fairy bow.
I'm using the arrows of Evil's non-delight.
Nope, not until Zelda blesses them. The bow is just a stick with a string.
Yeah, now rescuing the other carpenters is pretty similar fare, so we're going to discuss a couple of new Zelda games which have yet to be released, but were covered pretty extensively actually at this year's E3, so do you want to discuss the first one, which is coming out on the 3DS, mate?
Yeah, A Link Between Worlds. I always want to call it A Link Between Two Worlds or A Link Between the Dark World. I can never get names right. But honestly, there's not much to say about it. I mean, it has a nice color palette, but a lot of the models so far have been pretty underwhelming.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not interested in it at all, and maybe that's because I didn't grow up with A Link to the Past, and thus I've no nostalgia for it, or, desire for another sequel. I'm glad they're going with, a more top-down Zelda again. I think there's room for both 3D games and the top-down variety. Hell, maybe even a Adventure of Link-style 2D game every once in a while, every few decades, but it's doing nothing for me. Honestly, I think the game looks very bland.
Well, if you want to get a fix of 2D Zelda games, there's actually a lot of really good fan-made games that use the 2D sprites, so you can always look at those instead of going for official releases.
Yeah, now, on the other hand, the other game that is coming out, Wind Waker HD, is something that I think you know a lot about.
It's something that's caught my attention a lot, because to me, it reveals to us what direction Nintendo is hoping to take the Zelda franchise. You could compare it to Ocarina of Time 3D in terms of what changes are they adding to the old formula. If you look at Ocarina of Time 3D, first of all, the game's engine was updated. The physics for items, Link's attacks, and even his movements were changed from the original version. Also, the characters were given new animations and new models, which helps a lot to make with the graphical update.
Yeah, Sheik does one near the end of the game, actually, that I know for sure wasn't in the original.
They also upped the frame rate from 20 to 30, because 20 frames per second is such a stupid frame rate.
Oh, it was pretty sluggish back in the day, yeah.
Well, you had PAL version, so you had to deal with 15.
No, the memories. Did you even know what Green Hill sounds like in PAL?
Yes, I've actually heard it.
Whatever, carry on, mate.
They also upped the resolution because the original was a measly 240p. However, if you look at the gameplay, there's not nearly as many changes. Most of what was changed involves the menu system. They overhauled the inventory, they gave the Ocarina that quick select button, and they gave you that music screen. All of which really just comes to making the game less tedious. Nothing really changes the way you play the game.
Cough, cough, water temple.
Oh. Now we look at Wind Waker HD. Unfortunately, most of the information about the game is incomplete. Some of what I bring up is mostly from me playing the demo, so some of it might be changed in the final release.
Yeah.
First of all, the game runs on the exact same engine. Link moves exactly the same, damage works exactly the same, and even the leaf moves exactly the same. This is nothing new since all console Zelda games since original Wind Waker have run on the exact same engine.
Now, I could believe that because just the way Link moves in Skyward Sword reminds me a lot of Twilight Princess.
There's also a lot of glitches that indicate that they're the same engine. One of the biggest one is called Back in Time. And pretty much if a Zelda game has Back in Time, it runs on Wind Waker engine. Also, while the characters look a lot cleaner and shinier than they did in the original, the models they used are the exact same. All they did was add some new textures.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't really like the look of Wind Waker HD. I think they overbloomed it, and it looks... I'm just gonna say it looks awful.
Me too. To me, it just seems like if you take a game whose biggest selling point was its art style, and just add HD, you're undermining the art style. You're essentially saying art doesn't matter, because we can, in the end, just make it HD, and that makes it better, when it doesn't.
Now, some of the technical changes are very admirable, like the fact that you can load the entire ocean at once. You know, they've made the boat go faster to accommodate to this. I believe the Wind Waker is always equipped on the menu, is that true?
Yeah, the Wind Waker is kind of like the Ocarina. It's always equipped and it's sort of a quick select button. Also, you can switch items in real time. No more having to open a menu, switch your items, close the menu. It's genius!
That's pretty cool. I'd like to see how that plays out in the next Zelda game.
I also like how the excuse they gave for just now adding fast sailing was because, oh, the ocean wouldn't load fast enough. Which I'm going to call them out on that. I have seen Cosmo super swim across the ocean at about 5 times faster than fast sailing, and the ocean only occasionally deloads. I'm pretty sure they could have had the boat sail just a little bit faster in the original.
Yeah, Cosmo has pretty much destroyed that game, and actually recently he took back the world record.
I think he's going to keep it for a while. Those super swims are pretty good.
I believe it was 4 hours, 32 minutes, 26 seconds.
We'll go with that, yeah.
There we go, much better. You know, night is great for stealth purposes, but in the Gerudo's Fortress and the desert, I think daytime is best, mostly due to the music.
I love this piece of music. It literally has a special place in my heart as being the first song while playing a video game that I just put the controller down and just wanted to listen to the music independent of the actual game.
One of those. I don't know what one of those would have been for me, but I'd hazard a guess that it would be a Sonic tune. Now, since we won't be seeing this place again, is there anything we've missed? Any, sights that we could have seen?
Yeah, when we freed the last prisoner, Link was given the Gerudo token, which makes him an honorary smoking hot ass-kicking girl. But it also grants you access to the horseback archery range and the Gerudo training ground.
Mm-hmm.
On the archery range, you can win a piece of heart and the large quiver, which lets you hold 50 arrows.
Nice.
But I think the best part is that you can use reverse bottle adventure to open an invisible chest located behind the Gerudo that runs the range, and it looks like you're opening and digging into her butt for an item.
Oh, that glitch you showed me a while ago, that was fucking amazing.
It's literally called ass chest. And I think the best part is that there's actually something in the chest.
Well, one would hope so.
If you use it in the N64 version, you get the spooky mask. If you do it on a GameCube version, you get fire arrows. And if you do it on the Master Quest, you get bombs.
Jesus Christ, it never ends, this game.
There's also the training ground, which is the last little mini dungeon in the game. It's completely optional. The only thing you get out of it is the ice arrows, aka the most useless item in the game.
Yeah, I'm not really going to waste my time with that. Now, this little set piece here, it kind of lends credence to the fact that maybe the Spirit Temple wasn't meant to be the last one in the game, because you can actually get across that sand lake in 2 ways. You can use my way, the long shot, or you can use the hover boots from the Shadow Temple.
Yeah, once you cleared the river of sand, which is what that's called, you then have to navigate by following the flags. There's actually some cut navi text in the game that says, look at all those flags. Can you figure out which one is real? It's not used, but you can pretty much assume that it was going to be used in this part.
What, with the Lens of Truth?
Well, the Lens of Truth will be later on. With this, you're actually just supposed to spin around the flag, and hopefully you can see the outline of the next flag. It's actually really similar to the beginning of Pinnacle Rock, pretty much showing that the Haunted Wasteland and the Pinnacle Rock, they're the counterparts to each other.
Pinnacle Rock being from Majora's Mask. Thankfully here we can just use the Lens of Truth and don't have to rely on a glowing seahorse.
Another desert that you could relate this to is that in the Great Hyrule Encyclopedia, that actually exists. It says that the Haunted Wasteland later becomes the Desert of Mystery, which is the desert in A Link to the Past.
Okay.
But of course, the most obvious comparison is to the Gerudo Desert in Twilight Princess, since they have the exact same location, and they both have a Colossus dedicated to the Goddess of Sand.
I really like the Opposite Ground in Twilight Princess. That game had a great set of dungeons.
It's also possible that this desert is the modern day version of the Lanayru Desert and the Sand Sea from Skyward Sword. You can also catch Gerudo dragonflies in the Nehru Desert, although based on what I told you before, it doesn't necessarily mean it's referencing the Gerudos themselves. It could also represent all the Geld enemies that were in the deserts too.
True, true.
For For this little part, you can actually get through it without the Lens of Truth by memorizing a path from that little shack that we were by to the oasis.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
It's actually kind of cool because there are actually 2 circles interconnected by a little strip of land. You just have to make sure that you walk that fine line and you don't end up in the kill zone that sends you back to the beginning of the desert.
I wouldn't want to end up in kill zone anyway.
Ooh. It's like Limbo, only spikier.
And a poor PS2 game.
This area has one of the worst enemies. It has the levers, which they constantly spawn, and they're just like the Style Children in the field, in that if you kill enough, you'll actually spawn a bigger one.
Ugh, yeah, definitely one of my least favorite Zelda enemies.
It's also annoying because if you stand still, you actually sink a little bit into the sand and it'll reduce your speed. This is actually one of the fairy fountains I missed a lot during my casual playthroughs of this game.
Same.
It's just because, Din's Fire you need. Furor's Wind, I may have gotten that just out of sheer luck, but this, usually when I get to the Colossus, I go straight for the temple. I don't even bother getting any of the side items in this area.
Ah, the blue magic, my most favorite of magics.
It pretty much is the shield item of the game. You sacrifice magic so that you don't take any hearts of damage.
Yawn.
I think the only cool part is that you put Link in a crystal, because there's sort of a running theme in most Zelda games of damsels in distress being captured in crystals. It's like, I have a maiden all to myself in my secret castle. What am I going to do?
Looks like now I'm my own maiden. I'm gonna rescue myself.
That Colossus carved into the cliff is the Goddess of Sand. While there are a lot of theories that say that the Goddess of Sand might actually be Din, since Din created the earth, and sand is a type of earth, and Ganondorf, a Gerudo, has the Triforce of Power, which is Din's piece. The Goddess of Sand returns in Twilight Princess in the Arbiter Ground, and she's seen holding a flame, possibly a reference to Din's fire.
Yeah, that makes the most sense to me. I'll go with that.
Well, there's a lot of other side goddesses that they try to just tie them back to the original 3.
Hey, I'm Mary, goddess of cows.
That is the best cow of them all. I have a song dedicated to myself, and my spell is Mary's patience?
Mary's melody.
That symbol has actually been changed from previous releases of the game. That's the symbol of the Gerudo. In the initial release of this game, it was actually just a crescent moon with a star.
Yeah.
However, that's also the symbol for the religion of Islam.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So they changed it up by turning it into that sort of diamond shape. There's also some items that got that symbol change as well.
Like the item we'll be getting inside the Spirit Temple.
So stay tuned for that. I do like how they did this, where you enter a temple, can do absolutely nothing, and the whole point is you're supposed to leave.
It's a nice bait and switch, really.
Probably adding to the making it the last dungeon argument. Saving the best for last, something different for the end, because you've been through 5 temples already.
I guess, and thematically it makes sense that your enemy comes from the desert, you're kind of almost ending your adventure in his homeland, but I think also thematically the Shadow Temple could work best as the last one.
I think it's more thematically that, it's the last hurrah for Child Link.
True.
Something's weird about this song. A requiem is a song that serves as a prayer for the souls of the dead. It's usually for them to find salvation and go to heaven. And you play it right before a burial. So you would think that since the requiem is a song that has to do with the dead, it would be more appropriate for it to be the Shadow Temple's warp song. But then again, this temple does have a Colossus on it, and in Egypt, where the original Colossi are, they're actually usually connected to a tomb, so.
Well, that's mighty convenient.
I like how that's the most realistic disappearance of Sheik that we've seen so far.
Yeah.
Normally it's like, throw a thing, flash bomb. But this is like, okay, I can buy that you ran away in time during a sandstorm.
Yeah, I'll buy that over random fire.
It's like he controls the elements himself to try and just get away from awkward friendship moments with Link.
Don't fuck with Sheik. He'll throw sand in your face.
Pocket sand!
Sure. The spiritual stones. It has been a while.
What were they for again? We use them to buy candy, right?
Just gotta leave this in. No one touch my sword. Oh shit!
I know, he leaves the door open. Ganondorf's castle is right there. It's like, hold on guys, just leave that there. No one touch it. I wrote my name on it. I'll be back.
So help me God, if there's even a single smudge on this Blade of Evil's Bane when I get back, I'm gonna be having words with the king, and he's gonna talk to your mummy and daddy, and you're gonna get told off. Oh, kinda lost my train of thought there. Anyway, see you all next time, where we venture into the Spirit Temple and get the last medallion. See you then.